On February 20th, 2025, in the quiet rural community of Tius, just outside Carrollton, Georgia, the ordinary peace was shattered. A tragedy unfolded within a seemingly normal home at 31 Highest Carrollton Road, leaving a small town grappling with an unimaginable horror. Here at Voices of the Vanished, we're not just recounting stories, we're here to deconstruct them. If you're looking for a simple retelling of the facts, there are dozens of other channels for that. But if you're ready to dive deep, to analyze the glaring errors, the subtle before and the devastating after, exploring the psychology, sociology, and forensic medicine that truly unravel this tragedy, then you've found your home. We'll quickly summarize the events and then we'll peel back the layers, examining the almost unbelievable mistakes, the hidden tensions, and asking the crucial question, beyond the crime, what could have been different? Welcome. Let's begin. The morning of February 20th, 2025, had barely dawned when the jarring ring of a phone broke the silence. A teenage girl, her voice thick with panic and confusion, dialed 911. "My parents. They're not moving in bed. Cold to the touch," she stammered, words tumbling out amidst stifled sobs. The dispatcher, trained to maintain calm amidst chaos, dispatched an emergency team, reporting a cardiac arrest, a technical euphemism for what, deep down, already seemed far more sinister. The complaint was clear. Mother and stepfather are cold to the touch, believed to be beyond CPR. The urgency in the young girl's voice, the mention of the body's temperature, all indicated that life had already slipped away hours ago. When sirens tore through the morning air announcing the arrival of the police, the scene that unfolded inside the Brock residence was one of unsettling quiet. Christin Brock, 41, and James Brock, 45, lay in their bed, shot dead. There were no signs of a struggle, no overturned furniture, no forced entry on doors or windows. The house seemed to have absorbed the violent act into its silence, leaving no visible traces of an invasion. The bed, which should have been a sanctuary of rest, had become the stage for a brutal double homicide. The initial discovery was made by the family's youngest daughter, just 5 years old, who, with childlike innocence, must have encountered the most terrifying image of her short life. It was her older sister, Sarah Grace Patrick, 16, who amidst shock and despair managed to dial 911, her voice trembling and choked with tears and the confusion that overwhelmed her. Days later, at her mother's funeral, Sarah Grace stepped up to the pulpit. With a voice that wavered between fragility and a strange resilience, she delivered a long, tearful eulogy. She introduced herself as Sarah, daughter of Christin Brock and stepdaughter of James, a formality that seemed out of place for the moment. She spoke of the pain of farewell, the missed opportunity for a final goodbye. She thanked James for his teachings and love, and her mother for her strength and kindness. Addressing Christin with a tone bordering on dramatic, she declared, "Nothing we went through defines who you were. You were amazing." She expressed that the departure hurt, but it comforted her to know they would suffer no more. The culmination came when she shared a letter her mother had written to James, a letter that, according to Sarah, brought her peace every time she read it. The letter's final phrase, "We can't always choose the right song for us, but we can choose how we dance it," was followed by Sarah's comment, "She always danced to her own beat. Ha! And remember, she wrote it herself." A small, nervous, almost imperceptible laugh escaped her, adding a layer of strangeness to an already emotionally charged moment. What initially appeared to be an inexplicable domestic tragedy quickly transformed into a disturbing mystery. The absence of witnesses, the lack of clear clues, and the immaculate crime scene led investigators to a crossroads. Was the crime the work of an invisible intruder, a ghost who entered and exited without a trace, or a scenario of a much more complex tragedy, woven from within by known hands? As investigators began to scrutinize the Brock family's life, the facade of normalcy began to crumble. Sarah Grace's digital posts, once a mere reflection of teenage life, began to raise suspicions, revealing that true horror at times hides behind a broken smile, a performance of grief that seemed too rehearsed. Carrollton, Georgia, a contrasting backdrop. The case takes us to Carrollton in western Georgia, a city of approximately 28,400 residents, offering a backdrop of contrasts. Founded in 1829, the city flourished with the arrival of the railroad in 1874, transforming into a vibrant textile center in the 19th and 20th centuries. Today, it hosts the University of West Georgia and West Georgia Technical College, infusing young academic energy into its streets. The city boasts the Green Belt, a 29-kilometer paved trail that encircles it, an oasis for walking, cycling, and outdoor activities, an almost idyllic backdrop for the darkness that would be revealed. A few miles from the university center, in the rural area of Tius, lived Sarah Grace Patrick. Born in 2008, she was 16 at the time of the events and shared the home with her mother, Christin, and stepfather, James. Sarah grew up in a blended family environment, with her biological father, Daniel Patrick, separated from Christin, but maintaining a good relationship with his daughter, evidenced by affectionate notes he wrote to her, a bond of affection that would become a pillar in her future defense. For the surprise and horror of many, the clues, subtle at first, began to accumulate, and all of them, inexorably, pointed to a single person. On July 8, 2025, Sarah Grace Patrick, now 17, voluntarily surrendered to authorities, accompanied by her biological father, Daniel Patrick, after an arrest warrant was issued. The press conference the next day was a shock to the community. The sheriff announced she had been charged with 2 counts of murder and would be tried as an adult. Sarah remains held without bail, a strong indication of the solidity of the evidence against her, and if found guilty, she could face life in prison without the possibility of parole. With the initial facts laid out, the voices of the vanished approach demands we look beyond the surface. In the case of Sarah Grace Patrick, the most glaring mistakes weren't found in a botched cleanup, but in a chilling digital footprint and a performance of grief that raised more questions than it answered. The perplexing performance, a eulogy under scrutiny. Sarah Grace's eulogy at her mother's funeral was, in retrospect, a critical piece of the puzzle. While seemingly a heartfelt expression of loss, certain elements struck a discordant note. Her formal introduction, Sarah, daughter of Christin Brock and stepdaughter of James, felt strangely detached for such an intimate moment. The dramatic tone, the declaration that nothing we went through defines who you were. You were amazing. And the sharing of a letter with a poignant, almost philosophical quote, followed by her nervous, almost imperceptible laugh. All these details, when viewed through the lens of suspicion, began to paint a picture of a performance. Why the nervous laugh? Why the seemingly rehearsed delivery? In a moment of raw grief, such calculated articulation and a detached, almost theatrical sharing of personal sentiments can raise red flags for those trained to observe human behavior. It wasn't the behavior of a child in shock, but perhaps of someone trying too hard to appear a certain way. The digital blunders, a trail of online clues. But Sarah's most significant blunders were committed not in the physical world, but in the digital realm. As an avid TikTok user, her online presence transformed drastically after the tragedy. The crying videos. She posted numerous tearful videos looking directly at the camera, sharing collections of her parents' photos, and expressing feelings of being in an endless horror movie, pleading for prayers. While grief is expressed in many ways, the sheer volume and performative nature of these posts, especially the direct address to the camera, began to feel less like raw emotion and more like a carefully curated narrative. Or more calculatedly, was she constructing a narrative of innocence, a premeditated performance for what she knew was coming? The self-promotional outreach. Even more damning were her direct messages to true crime influencers. She contacted Janice from allegedly, reportedly, and Mamatot, providing details of her family's case, seeking solace, but also seemingly attention. The message to Janice: look up the Brock case. They're my parents. Someone brutally shot my parents, leaving them for my little sister and I to wake up to, reads almost like a press release. This pursuit of online validation, even amidst personal tragedy, raises questions about her emotional processing and her perception of the gravity of the situation. Was she genuinely seeking support, or was she attempting to control the narrative and garner a base of followers who would support and defend her in the future, anticipating the accusations she knew were coming? The calculated speculation. Her comments on other true crime videos were particularly chilling. When a video speculated if the killer knew the victims, Sarah allegedly responded with unnerving certainty. No doubt, since they knew the house. This wasn't the speculation of a grieving child, but the confident assertion of someone with inside knowledge. The deletion and the digital ghosts. Her eventual deletion of her TikTok account, after warning she would do so, was another attempt to erase her tracks. However, as we know in the digital age, nothing truly disappears. Screenshots and reposts of her videos and messages remained in circulation, becoming digital ghosts that investigators could not ignore. The impeccable crime scene, a silent accusation. The physical crime scene itself, devoid of forced entry, signs of struggle, or any external evidence, became a silent accusation. Christin and James Brock were ordinary people, dedicated to family and church, with no known enemies. This absence of external factors, combined with Sarah's peculiar behavior and digital footprint, inexorably turned the investigators' focus inward, towards the only unharmed person in the house. And here lies one of the greatest contradictions. Such a brutal crime. 2 gunshot murders, in a house with no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no witnesses, no noise, no videos of intruders, nothing. It's a scene that defies the logic of an external crime. This leads us to question, was it extreme naivety on Sarah Grace's part, or pure malice and cold calculation, trusting that the absence of external evidence would protect her? According to authorities, they possess mountains of physical and digital evidence, an arsenal of proof that, while not publicly revealing the motive, appears to be overwhelming. Sarah's voluntary surrender after an arrest warrant and her detention without bail further underscore the strength of the case against her. In Sarah Grace Patrick's case, the blunders were not just about what she did, but about what she said and showed online, turning her own digital narrative into a compelling piece of evidence against her. To truly understand the tragedy in Carrollton, we must delve into the before, the psychological landscape and the hidden tensions that may have simmered beneath the surface of Sarah Grace Patrick's life. While the motive remains officially undisclosed, Sarah's actions and digital footprint offer unsettling glimpses into her state of mind. The blended family dynamic and adolescent identity. Sarah, at 16, was navigating the complexities of adolescence within a blended family. Her biological father, Daniel Patrick, maintained a good relationship with her, a bond that would later become a pillar of her defense. Her mother, Christin, and stepfather, James, were described as ordinary, church-going individuals. Yet even in seemingly stable environments, the pressures of teenage life, the search for identity, and the dynamics of a blended family can create unseen stresses. The allure of the digital stage, performance and notoriety. Sarah's prolific use of TikTok and her subsequent behavior after the murders points to a deep engagement with the digital world. For many teenagers, social media is a stage for self-expression, but for some it can become a platform for performance, validation, and even a distorted sense of reality. The horror movie narrative. Her posts describing her life as an endless horror movie and her house as a place she could no longer bear to be, suggest a mind grappling with intense emotions, or perhaps crafting a narrative designed to elicit sympathy and attention. Or more calculatedly, was she constructing a narrative of innocence, a premeditated performance for what she knew was coming? Seeking influencer validation. The act of reaching out to true crime influencers, providing case details, and seeking motherly comfort is particularly telling. It suggests a desire for notoriety, a need to be seen and heard, not just as a victim, but as a central figure in a dramatic story. This pursuit of online validation, even amidst personal tragedy, raises questions about her emotional processing and her perception of the gravity of the situation. Was she genuinely seeking support, or was she attempting to control the narrative and garner a base of followers who would support and defend her in the future, anticipating the accusations she knew were coming? The unseen tensions. A motive, yet unknown. Unlike many cases where a clear motive, like a forbidden relationship, inheritance, or abuse emerges, the motive of Sarah Grace Patrick remains officially unstated. This absence of a public motive forces us to speculate on the invisible tensions that may have been present. Adolescent rebellion. Could it have been a severe escalation of typical teenage rebellion, perhaps over rules, freedoms, or perceived injustices? Undiagnosed mental health issues. Was Sarah struggling with underlying mental health challenges that went unnoticed or untreated, leading to a break from reality or an inability to cope with conflict? Hidden family conflicts. Despite the outward appearance of normalcy, were there deeper unspoken conflicts within the Brock household that reached a breaking point. Excessive social media use and disconnection from reality, could constant immersion in the digital world, the incessant search for validation, and the construction of an online persona have distorted her perception of reality and the consequences of her actions, leading to an escalation of behavior. External influence or sinister challenge. The absence of a clear motive leads us to question if Sarah acted alone. Could she have been influenced by someone? Was she involved in some kind of sinister online challenge or pact that led her to commit such an act? The police have not ruled out accomplices. Protecting someone. The fact that Sarah has not yet confessed to the motive, even in the face of mountains of evidence, raises the possibility that she is protecting someone. Could it be an accomplice, a boyfriend, or someone who manipulated her into committing the crime? The influence of true crime. As with Sarah Johnson, could Sarah Grace's immersion in true crime content have blurred the lines between fantasy and reality, leading her to believe she could orchestrate a perfect crime or manage the aftermath through a public performance? The contrast between the idyllic backdrop of Carrollton, a town balancing academic dynamism with small-town charm, and the darkness that unfolded within one of its homes is stark. It serves as a chilling reminder that even in seemingly peaceful communities, the most profound tragedies can be born from unseen struggles. Sarah Grace Patrick's case is a disturbing study of how a digital life can intertwine with a real-life tragedy, leaving a trail of clues that speak volumes about a mind under immense pressure, or perhaps a mind capable of chilling calculation. We've deconstructed the digital blunders and explored the psychological complexities surrounding Sarah Grace Patrick's case. But at Voices of the Vanished, our analysis extends beyond the crime itself to ask, beyond the crime, what could have been different? Could this tragedy have been averted? And what critical lessons can we, as a society, learn from the broken silence in Carrollton? 1. The digital footprint as a warning sign and evidence. Sarah Grace's extensive and peculiar online activity on TikTok became a central piece of the investigation. Her posts, initially seen as expressions of grief, later revealed a pattern that raised suspicion. What could have been different? This case highlights the double-edged sword of social media. For parents, it underscores the critical need for active monitoring and understanding of their children's digital lives. It's not just about privacy, it's about vigilance for warning signs. Are our children exhibiting behaviors online that are inconsistent with their emotional state, or that suggest a dangerous fascination? For law enforcement, it emphasizes the growing importance of digital forensics in modern investigations. Every post, every message, every deleted account leaves a trace that can be crucial evidence. 2. Discerning genuine grief from performance. The public display of grief, particularly Sarah's eulogy and her crying videos, was a key element that eventually raised suspicions. What could have been different? This is a deeply uncomfortable but necessary conversation. How do we, as a society, learn to discern authentic emotional distress from a performance, especially in high-stakes situations? It's not about judging grief, but about recognizing when behavior deviates significantly from what might be expected or when it seems overly calculated. This requires a heightened awareness from family, friends, and community members to pay attention to subtle cues rather than just accepting surface-level expressions. 3. The invisible tensions in seemingly normal families. The Brock family appeared ordinary, yet a tragedy of this magnitude suggests deep, unresolved issues. The motive remains unknown, forcing us to consider the conflicts hidden. What could have been different? This case is a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Many families present a facade of normalcy while struggling with profound internal conflicts, communication breakdowns, or unaddressed mental health challenges. It's a call for greater openness within families, for seeking professional help when tensions escalate, and for communities to foster environments where asking for help is normalized, not stigmatized. We need to be more attuned to the unspoken struggles within our homes and those of our neighbors. 4. The impact of a child accused, a community's reckoning. The accusation of a 17-year-old girl murdering her parents sends shockwaves through any community. It forces a painful introspection. What could have been different? This case prompts us to reflect on how we support adolescents struggling with mental health or behavioral issues. Are there enough resources? Are we listening effectively? When a child is accused of such a heinous crime, it's not just a legal battle. It's a community's reckoning with its own vulnerabilities and the potential for darkness to emerge from unexpected places. It underscores the need for robust mental health support systems for young people and for early intervention when concerning behaviors arise. The case of Sarah Grace Patrick is a chilling testament to how modern life, particularly the pervasive influence of social media, can intersect with profound tragedy. It reminds us that the truth often leaves a digital echo, and that the most disturbing stories can unfold not just in the shadows, but in plain sight on our screens. In today's video, by deconstructing this crime, we sought not only to understand what happened, but also to illuminate the paths that could have led to a different outcome. It is an urgent appeal for digital literacy, emotional intelligence, and the courage to look beyond the curated performances that often mask deeper truths. It's an invitation for each of us to reflect on the dynamics in our own homes and communities, and on how we can act to prevent the invisible from becoming irreversible. The case of Sarah Grace Patrick is a disturbing and contemporary reminder that tragedy can strike even in seemingly peaceful communities, and that the digital world can become both a stage for deception and a trove of crucial evidence. At Voices of the Vanished, we've deconstructed this story not to judge but to understand the human complexities and the modern challenges that can lead to such a devastating outcome. We've seen how Sarah's digital footprint and her public performance of grief became key elements in her undoing. We've explored the psychological questions surrounding her actions and the unseen tensions that may have been present. And most importantly, we've reflected on what could have been different: the vigilance required in the digital age, the need to discern genuine emotion, and the importance of addressing hidden family struggles. This is a story that forces us to look inward, at the dynamics of our own homes, and at the signs that at times we prefer to ignore, especially in the ever-present glow of our screens. Now, we want to hear your voice. Given her online behavior, do you believe Sarah Grace Patrick was genuinely grieving, or was she performing for an audience? What role do you think social media plays in cases like this, both in revealing and obscuring the truth? And what do you believe could be the underlying motive for such a horrific act, given what we know? Leave your opinion in the comments below. Your perspective is fundamental to our crime deconstruction community. If you value deep analyses like this that go beyond the crime, please like this video and subscribe to Voices of the Vanished so you don't miss our next investigations. Thank you for joining us on this dark yet necessary journey. Until the next deconstruction.